What you are about to watch is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute any type of advice. Always question the validity of what you see and what you hear. Viewer discretion is advised.
Today's segment is going to be very special. It's very interesting, insightful, and practical. I will share with you a topic that many churches don't want you to know, because if you have this information, you are very likely to no longer give them access to your 10% of your earnings. You may think that 10% is not a big deal, but that's actually a lot. Let's say that the church has 30 members, which is rather small. If the average of every member is $3,000, then 10% is $300, which when multiplied by 30, that is $9,000 a month that they are collecting through memberships. That is $108,000 a year. Granted, they do have expenses, and their pastor likely has a job outside of being a pastor. So if after all expenses the pastor makes $5,000 a month, that is $60,000 a year that he's adding to his other income. That is very significant. The biggest problem is not the money, because there are other churches and ministries that are very compassionate and helpful who are not part of the grift, who earn much more than that. The problem is the level of lies that they have to spread in order to carve into your money. They have to basically tell you that God needs your money, not just some of your money, but at least 10%. God is a spirit. Why would he need your money? This is not God who needs your money. It is the grifters who want to spend your money. I think that if they were to be honest and wanted to build a community that thrives together, a community that teaches skills to financially succeed, overcome our relationship issues, and combat loneliness, they could legitimately charge for the workshops and trainings. People will pay because once some people see the value and the results, they will recommend to others. Also, churches and ministries are designated as non-profits, which make them eligible for grants. If they show the community how much they can offer to their members, their membership would grow, people would donate because that is a worthy cause, and they will be able to ask for funding in order to help others how to overcome their financial issues and have better relationships. The big problem is that the effort that it takes to run something legitimate is huge, but the grift is not. All they have to do is convince you to believe some fairy tale about God needing your money, but you have to make it payable to the church. No, even better, pay it in cash so that they may not need to report it on their tax earnings, which at the end of the day, it does not affect them since they are a non-profit. Their real intentions are to pocket that money for themselves. I knew a loan shark who used a drug recovery ministry. He would make the members get on food stamps, use their food stamps to get food and feed each other, have them pick contracts that he would negotiate for and work for an agreed pay from the person receiving the service, while he would pocket the money. He would also guilt donors into not asking for receipts for their cash donations. The reason that he would do that was to pocket the money to pay off the Lexus that he had purchased. He was a con, a very sloppy con, who later got busted, and his wife fully supported the grift until he became broke and she left him for another man. It was quite well deserved, by the way. But now that we have spent some time unmasking the grift, let's talk about the topic for today and what it is: false fears versus intuitive fears. We are born with the capabilities to interpret what we see and then use the development intuition to make life-altering decisions. In other words, survival. The moment a baby learns to observe the world, which is actually very early on, they develop a notion of movement, touch, and height. When they realize that the height is at a certain level, they develop fear of falling. Later, as the baby grows into an older child, experiences of physical pain, getting yelled at, which is mistaken as a precursor for being physically punished, which reinforces fear of pain. As we grow older, they learn about suffering, which is the differentiation of pain and struggle. Both are felt at a physical level, but one is the precursor of being in pain, which is suffering. This is where the potential for false fears develop. People make assumptions in order to avoid or confront issues that lead to suffering. When we are born, we quickly develop that understanding of physical pain in order to survive. It is an incredibly intelligent learning experience as it shapes our views of both living and surviving. However, as we quickly learn to circumvent potential experiences that teach us physical pain by making assumptions, we start making wrong assumptions, mostly learned by people who unintentionally lie to us because they learn those assumptions from others. The problem with perceived fear is that it is not always accurate. Tyrannical government systems, labor economic frameworks like capitalism and socialism, cults tend to exploit notions of fear to fabricate their own stories to get us to shut up and comply. Tyrannical government use fear strategies to lie to us about foreigners and anyone who is different posing a threat because they come to take our jobs or to plan attacks in our countries. This tactic is becoming much less common because it is getting too overplayed. But there are other tactics such as asking us to surrender our rights to own and carry guns, to give up our privacy so it is easy for them to catch criminals, and to trust them with writing policies that in the long run will benefit us, such as paying more taxes to fund wars and on police force. However, these policies reduce our freedom, the freedom of our children, and the next generations. The worst part is that children will normalize what is going on since they are born into the level of control that we have, and out of ignorance, we don't teach them that it is not how things used to be. We must face it, neither capitalism or socialism frameworks work. In a society where everyone is at the same level, capitalism allows the exchange of free market. But as some players get ahead of the game, they begin to concentrate power and success. Preventing monopoly will only work to the point that there won't be only one superpower, but several superpowers. The players will have to divide the market, but new players will be either bought out or run out of business. It is a framework for human success, which is where the lie is, because the initial players who master the game will inevitably control the economy because they will control both the labor market and the majority of consumption. Socialism, especially in the Marxist definition, is even worse because it removes the right to own property and leaves it exclusively to government. While members of government will live in serious places and hold all the power, the population lives in ghettos. Everyone is underpaid regardless of their occupation, and governments have full control over cheap labor. This is every tyrant's dream. However, there are people who are so brainwashed that they believe that any good would come from the trash. They get on their knees and beg their new god, the government, to handle their freedom and make choices for them because they are incapable of handling their own freedom. They take gullible to a whole new level. Unfortunately, their parents have reached a new level of failure when it comes to parenting. I can see these Muppets on both sides getting angry and asking me what I propose in order to entrap me and give some political proposition. I suggest you open your eyes and see the light and dark. Instead of blindly believing everything you hear, remember that you can only witness what you see, not what you hear. But apparently they're living somewhere else that is not Earth. But back to our topic. Many churches are part of the grift as well, and sometimes are some of the worst because they use far-fetched stories, such as, if you don't donate your hard-earned money, put out when the pastor tells you, and keep your head down because they are the messengers of God, and you as a peasant are unworthy of looking to their brilliant eyes. Sometimes they try to be sneaky and ask me if I know if I would go to heaven or hell. I tell them that I'm going to the ground as a body and my spirit back to God. They immediately begin to treat me like I am some ignorant who doesn't understand the basic interpretation of the Bible. Their grifting leaders taught them, I don't welcome this level of arrogance and narcissism, and neither should you. We have seen how far they take it. They build huge churches and obscenely ask for their money and even dance around the money, chanting, this is my new God, but I am your new God. Give me more, you dirty peasant. Amazingly enough, the crowd throws money of their minimum wage checks to them. People seem to quickly catch up to the scams like FBA, dropshipping, affiliate marketing, multi-level marketing, and even romance scams, but hardly anyone points the grift of the church into question. I think it is because he preys on their vulnerability and desire to believe. And this is why there is a law of power that says if you play on people's fantasies, you will have a cult-like following. I think that churches and their grifts are truly proving this point. Many will point at me and ask me why I'm saying these things that I'm saying about churches if I myself believe in God and read His Word. The Word tells us to beware of false servants, which come to us in sheep's clothing, but inside they're greedy grifters. This is exactly what I'm doing with this message. Create awareness and tell you the truth. When I say something about the church, I'm not talking about good, decent churches who are not insisting to give them 10% of your earnings and show your pay stubs. They probably want your social security number and credit cards as well. But if they ask you for them, they know that the grift will become too obvious. They are stubborn former car salesmen who use the Bible by reading isolated passages and cut the rest off, where it shows you how the text is used to be applied before the destruction of the Second Temple. They will go out of their way to try to convince you that God does want you to give them your money so they can buy Gucci. They are the same grifters who will guilt you into an unfit marriage because you have a girlfriend who you are comfortable, but you don't necessarily know if you want to spend the rest of your life with this person. The grifters will tell you, marry her so you're not living in sin. Then, when the marriage fails and you have to fork the divorce court and division of property, the grifters will pretty much tell you that you are on your own. They excuse their lack of interest and truly helping you by telling you that they will pray for you, that you will get over it, and that they will be there to guilt you again into marrying the next unfit marriage girlfriend. They are childish and immature. It is like arguing with a 3-year-old toddler who wants to buy a toy and is not hearing that there is not enough money. Don't get me wrong, I love prayer and I practice it every day. I just don't use it as an excuse to be shady to others and leave them in their own when they need help. The reason I am bringing this issue with the grifters asking you for 10% of your cash and forcing you into marriage is because the main argument goes back to the same use of fear in order to put you back into compliance. They will tell you the same thing that these cults constantly use to make you fear, that you will go to hell if you don't do what God says, because according to them, they are the personal secretaries of God, so you as a peasant should not even question what they are telling you. Even if you tell him that the girl you're seeing is someone who you met on Tinder, who you just found out that is on the blue logo app showing the merchandise to anyone with $10, so you're probably going to dump her anyways. Nope, they want you to not judge and hurry up and marry this ethot. If you believe this grift and marry her, you probably deserve the divorce of the century, to which hopefully you learn a thing or two with such an astronomical mistake and hope that God forgives your stupidity. But dark humor aside, I hope that you can see that such grift has the potential to ruin your life. If you're able to find humor in dark places, it can help you deal with it in a more profound manner, because it is very darn difficult to be laughing at something and being miserable at the same time. Unfortunately, misery likes company. But get away from that as far as you can, because it can ruin your day and opportunities really fast. There's a lot of power that talks about staying away from the unhappy and unfortunate because they drain you so fast. Some of the grifters will guilt you for that way of thinking, to which you can respond that you will pray for them from afar, very, very far. Also realize that our God is a God of joy. Laughter brings joy, and once in a while we have every right to have a moment of enjoyment, even if it appears childish. It is better than being a Karen who wants to dictate how things should be. I usually respond with, "Excuse me, Karen Anger, what law is the one you are talking about, and who put you in charge of it?" I'm usually welcomed with a few names that I don't care to even address, but Karen becomes very unfriendly after that, which leads to kicking her out of the party. But back to the topic of fear. It is in the best interest of any system of power that wants something from us to keep us in fear, so that we believe that they have our best interest, and that if we don't listen to them and kneel to them, they won't be there to save us with their powerful advice. They remind me of those online gurus who can't work their way out of a paper bag, yet they claim to know everything, especially how to make you rich. The only people who fall for that are people who haven't learned to use the power of being a skeptic. So how does one overcome the fear? The solution is to treat fear as intuition, whether it is a correctly perceived fear or a false fear. When we ask what the fear is trying to tell us, it will quickly identify if there is an imminent physical fear that we must fight against or escape. If the fear is perceived, we can examine what our God is telling us, because it does come from the physical God. The fear may just be telling us to be careful because it can be very accurate, and while that perceived fear may not lead us to physical harm, it can lead to lose what we have to whomever is trying to take it from us. For example, some people have a gut feeling of uncertainty and doubt when their friend is asking them to sign up for some MLM package that they're claiming makes so much money. Instead of asking that person, "How is that making so much money? You look like you're broke," the person dismisses their gut intuition, and they end up suckered into some grift where they buy merchandise and they can't sell it to anyone, and they can't recruit other suckers because not everyone is as gullible and they are not as predatory as the people who have recruited them. The same can be said about the churches that ask for your hard-earned money, like an ex-wife who you have 7 kids with, and she threatens that if you don't give her part of your check, she will officially put you in child support. She even sends you cases used in court of law to show you how much worse it could be. You tell her, "Darn, you should have been a lawyer," and she tells you that she would have been if it wasn't for your patriarchal male privilege that forced her to have that many kids with her. Maybe you shouldn't have ignored the red flags when she told you she was a feminist. From time to time, you talk to her to make fun of her delusions, but you don't have that privilege of toying with these cults. Although some of us do, please remember that you're playing with fire, because they will try to tell you that you will go to hell when in reality the idea of hell is not even biblical. It was a manipulation by the early leaders of the Catholic Church to get people to submit to their power, and the grifters know how long of history guilting people has. Your best bet is to tell them that you are a member of the long-standing church of none of your effing business and that you are very happy there. Tell them that you, your girlfriend, and your 5 concubines are very happy where you're at. You now know that union with God through a ceremony was biblical, but marriage through a state was the result of a capitalist grift used by Romans. The whole ritual of the wedding ring is a pagan tradition that God actually despises. There's nothing wrong with a couple enjoying a romance and seeing where the relationship goes. If it works or fails, it is not the state's business or the church's business. The best idea is to stop attending any church who tries to tell you how to hold your relationships. Marriage, for the most part, is unnecessary. It is also a great relationship filter because any woman who doesn't want a relationship with you is either brainwashed or wants to take a little or much that you have through the court once she divorces you and leaves you for another man. It is the same type of woman who perpetually think that the grass is greener on the other side and that they deserve the world for being themselves. Stay away from them as much as the churches who want to guilt you into marrying this type of woman. Their fear of hell that does not exist pales in comparison to the hell that you will live through a divorce court and see everything that you've ever said be dissolved into salt and dirt. There is so much truth to not having to fear anything but fear itself, because fear will make you weak and compliant. Instead, praying to God to allow you to see the grifters for the gold diggers that they are, and to give you the courage to put your foot in the rear, protect your well-being, your assets, your body, and your life. You did not come to this world to suffer and struggle. It is in your hands to use fear as an intuition and to dispel the lies when someone is trying to intimidate you using false notions of fear. Remember that not everything that you are told is the truth, and that you can only witness what you see, not what you hear. Stay safe, everyone.